So, guys, now already share the record. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, thanks. So, okay. So let me just get to this. So, col columnar chromatography. Uh, this mainly includes a stationary phase and a mobile phase, whereby our stationary phase is packed within a column and the mobile phase is a moving liquid or gas. So like the whole basis of this is like, let me see if I can get it. Columns. So it's like we have like a column there somewhere. And then assume that the column is packed with like what we call our stationary phase. And then you have a mobile phase which is traveling through the stationary phase. And the mobile phase contains, our whatever, our analytes or just whatever we have. So it's within our mobile phase. So based on the polarity difference between the mobile phase and the stationary phase, our analyte can either decide to attach to our stationary phase and therefore move slower through the column, or it can oppose the stationary phase and move efficiently through the column. So we'll look at five major types of columnar chromatography. And our first one is absorption chromatography, whereby the solid attracts in our stationary phase, the solid, it includes a solid which attracts a solid. The mobile phase is either a liquid or gas, and the solids move in different ways according to how attracted they are to the stationary phase, just as I've explained. In terms of partition chromatography, we have a solid inert support, and on top of the support, we have a thin film of liquid from surface. So that's our stationary phase. Our mobile phase is either liquid or gas, and the solids equilibrate between the two phases according to their partition coefficients. In terms of the ion exchange, in terms of the principle or mechanism, that's pretty simple, because now one side we have in our stationary phase, we have positively charged, and the other phase we have negatively charged. So our stationary phase can either be the positives or the negatives, and the liquid will contain the electrolytes. And then our molecular exclusion chromatography. So this one separates in terms of size, whereby the smaller molecules will enter into the stationary phase, while the larger ones will pass through at a faster rate. So we have like a porous gel. What does this mean? Pores. So this pores, the smaller molecules can get into the pores and therefore move much slower through the, as they move with the mobile phase. Lastly, we have our affinity chromatography. The stationary phase immobilizes the molecules. This is a special kind of solid. Why is it special? Because it specifically immobilizes. So the other ones slow down the rate of elution. Elution is what, like, can extract from our solids. So this is special because it completely immobilizes. So I'll keep that in mind. Okay. So normally, like a long time ago, mainly we were using like this type of this type of columnar chromatography. Obviously, now we know we have so many different types which are more modern. So the modern ones we use, pressure from, let's say, technology. But in the old method, they focused on using they focused on using atmospheric pressure. So atmospheric pressure means in a puja. So the pressure which you're relying on is the one which is from above zero. So just imagine we have something packed inside, and then we have our mobile phase in between. So our mobile phase is slowly moving through. Just give me a second. Uh, okay, so I've explained that. So we're good. Let me let me just use that so I didn't shoot. Okay, so what we just looked at is like the traditional column photography of open column photography. And as I said, it relies on atmospheric pressure and we've already seen. So remember, the idea is our our yellow stuff is the what do you call it? Is the stationary phase. And then whatever is in green, you can see it is our analyte probably, and it is moving together with the red, which is our mobile phase. So we can keep on adding the mobile phase as it comes out so that it keeps moving our analyte till the end. So our analyte, the rate at which our analyte will move is all based on, the rate at which the analyte moves is all based on the the different principles that we've looked at, but like just how much it attracts to the stationary phase as compared to the mobile phase. If it attracts a lot more to the mobile phase, then it will move at a much faster rate. Okay, so the different like things that we need to look at, we need to look at the packing. And one of the methods that we use to decide on the packing material is the density, or one of the factors. So some techniques may either use wet, dry, or slurry methods, and we should always avoid air bubbles while inserting the packing material. And then the sample should be applied evenly in that, like there's how do I explain it? There's like even throughout the diameter of the column that we're using, the sample itself should be evenly concentrated and even in the amount of which we apply. Uh, so the different methods of elution. What is elution? Elution is just the movement of the elements or the analytes, until it's eventually out of the column. So either we can do it uh, in a fixed composition, or which is isocratic, or a gradient solution. So gradients, gradient from up to down. So we'll be changing the amount of the analyte that we put in over the period of time. So maybe when we can start with a lot, and then we go decreasing or we go increasing. So either it can be continuous or stepwise. Continuous means that each, like every second, then we keep putting a bit, like little bits every continuously. So maybe 1 microgram or something every second. That's what is that's what we are putting in. While stepwise is where we put in at one point, and then after like 2 minutes again, and then after 2 minutes again, So that's fractional elution or stepwise. So in terms of detection, we we can use different detectors such as UV. We can also look at the refractive index, but we'll look at these a bit later. So the different factors that we should consider, as I said, particle size, the column dimensions, uh, and in terms of the column dimensions, efficiency increases as ratio length or the width increases. Um, yeah, the the uniformity of packing. So we need to make sure it's very uniform for it to have a good effect. Column temperature increasing. So elution will increase with increase in column temperature, but it doesn't necessarily increase the separation between, our analyte to the stationary and mobile phase. The eluting solvents, they should be of low viscosity. Like viscosity, we mean like porridge is a very viscous material. You don't want to use something like that. You want to use something that is move efficiently. And also something with high volatility for rapid recovery of the substances. Solvent flow rates needs to be uniform, continuity of flow. We want it to be continuous. Condition of the adsorbents. In case the adsorbent is deactivated, it will decrease our separation and concentration of the solids. Highly concentrated substances will move much slower. In case anyone has a question, please just feel free to just jump in at any time. So in terms of the adsorbents, the most commonly used are alumina and silica gel. I think I remember uh, Dr. Edith always making us do these things. And I don't remember. Anyway, so more polar molecules will be more strongly absorbed and thus elute more slowly. What does this mean? We have looked at our column and we're saying if if this aluminum and silica gels have OH, meaning they're polar, and we have a non-polar mobile phase. If our analyte is mobile, is polar, it will attract to our stationary phase and therefore be emitted much slower. Anyway, so in terms of the strength of polar groups, so we say the most polar is the strongest. So here we have acid, which you can see they have an O and an OH, so more polar. And then now we have our phenols, which are slightly less polar. And then we have our amines, and then we have our aldehydes, and then our lactones, and then our esters, and our ethers, and then our olefins. Okay, so haven't seen much of this, but just appreciate it. Applications in separation of natural products. So alumina is used for steroids, dyes, vitamins, esters, alkaloids, and inorganic compounds, and not used for compounds containing phenolic or carboxylic groups. And silica gel for steroids and amino acids, carbon for peptides, carbohydrates, and amino acids, and calcium carbonate for carotenoids and xanthophyll. So these are different absorbents that we use. So we say silica gel and alumina, and we can also add carbon and calcium carbonates. I think one thing we can appreciate about carbon itself, This means now we have a highly nonpolar adsorbent as our stationary phase, meaning if we have other nonpolar materials, then the elution will take a pretty long time. In terms of partition column chromatography, the packing is theoretically an inert support, as we say, which is coated with a film of liquid stationary phase. So the division into adsorption and partition is only a theoretical significance as in partition material. So different factors which we should consider when deciding the support material. They should be able to absorb and retain the mobile stationary phase. They should expose a large surface as possible to the mobile phase so that the whole analyte can be exposed, to them. They should be mechanically stable. What does this mean? It means even in terms of heat and pressure, they shouldn't handle phase. They should be easy to park, and they shouldn't slow down the circuitry or retard the circuitry. Examples of solid supports, these are cellulose, that malicious sap, and silicone. So when you're selecting a mobile phase, I think the most important thing is to understand, first of all, the, what we expect from our elements. So if we we know that pure water is the most polar element, uh, sorry, is the most polar mobile phase that we can use. So we'd want, to use it when we have something which is relatively polar, so that you can move together with the water and eventually create water. So these are just differences. So pure water is the most polar, here we have containers are least polar, based on all this. So if the stationary phase that we're using is water, we want pentane to be our element of choice. What does this mean? It means that we'd want our stationary phase and our mobile phase to be completely different in terms of their polarity. So if you're using a polar mobile phase, you want a highly nonpolar or a highly lipophilic, stationary phase. So the mobile phase is usually substituted with the stationary phase to overcome stripping. With the washing of the stationary phase from the column of the mobile phase. So now I look at PLC. The this these things were not that long, so just bear with me for a few minutes. But I hope everyone is understanding. Stano, unaweza unaelewa ama nasongeleka sana?
Wait, really? Can you go back
Mm.
to the previous slide? That saturation of the mobile phase, I've not understood what that means. That
Okay,
one,
so
yeah.
this, yeah, so how do we, the way I understood it is when you see like when you have your packed column. So yeah, are we together? So you have your packed column, and let's say through the packed column, the liquid which is passing through with a lot of pressure, but it's only passing through at one specific point. You see, all that pressure is concentrated on that specific point. So there's a high chance that it might it might like move the stationary phase in itself because there's so much pressure at one point. But once we make sure that the stationary phase is completely saturated with the mobile phase, the pressure in itself is divided equally through the stationary phase. So it prevents the, because how you look at it is you have your column in itself, and then the column is attached to our stationary phase. So there are chances that the stationary phase can be washed away if the pressure is very high at different, at different moments. And by very high, depending on the type of chromatography you're looking at, uh, the pressures are usually high, and now we're talking very, very high. So if am I making sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, are you sure? If you're not on the I'm a tell me guys. That's good. Anyway, so comfort. I've answered your question.
Yeah, I'm getting it.
So, so then we look at gas liquid chromatography. Uh, this suggests stuff. But the stationary phase is usually held on a material commonly used. So fused diatomite is usually the common used finance material in GLC. And just the same things, it should be uniform size, small particles, particle size to increase the surface area to allow even packing. This, uh, in terms of the stationary phase, you should choose it based on the temperature at which the column will operate, because we say we want something which is mechanically stable. It should be non-volatile at the operating temperature, so it shouldn't just start evaporating out of nowhere when we're heating up the temperature. And you should also not react to the mobile phase. I think that's clear. And the mobile phase itself should even try and take something which is not. So something which won't, you know, react with anything. So just this is like the basic principle. And we have the flow regulator, which determines, our regulator our mobile phase. And then our injection port, here we put in our analyte, and then the analyte now is moving with the mobile phase. And then eventually we have a detector. So this detector, the work is just from the word, it detects our it detects our analytes or our eluents, and then finally we have our chart recorder, or just basically our computer or whatever, where we now we find the digits. So that's here. So some common materials used for non-polar compounds, we use silicon oils with the temperatures of between 200 to 250, artisan oils and greases for 275 to 300, silicon gum rubber for 400 degrees, high volume from paraffin is mineral oil at 100 degrees Celsius in squalene for substances around 75 degrees Celsius. That's all based on the temperature at which GLC operate. So for moderately polar compounds, for high boiling point alcohols and the esters, temperature is usually around 100 to 225, and for strongly polar compounds such as propylene or polypropylene, sorry, glycols and the esters to 25 degrees Celsius. Our gas supply should be concentrated. Normally, our carrier gas is either helium or nitrogen. Helium, obviously, prefer the bit because of how light it is. And one of our detectors, which we look at, is a fluorine ionization detector. Uh, yeah. And just the pointer below the flame ionization detector, what they're trying to say is for the flame ionization detector to work, what usually happens is that its combustion usually occurs uh, between oxygen and hydrogen. Just generally, there's a combustion that occurs between oxygen and hydrogen. And this combustion, you know, it will produce water. But then, when we, it will produce water. But when our analyte passes through, uh, it will cause, an ionization after, the flame itself won't be affected, but ionization will occur due to the presence of the analyte. So then the detector can detect the ions, and then through that. So injection ports, we see the samples after we introduce them, and the temperature is usually touch 50 degrees higher than the column temperature. And we use an auto sampler to introduce a sample automatically. Its benefits are better reproducibility in terms of our results, time optimization, precision. Uh, and they have microsyringes and silicon rubber very small samples of about a microgram are usually injected. So the sample is usually introduced into a heat small chamber by a syringe to a septum. Um, Heat usually facilitates the volatilization of a sample matrix. Uh, and the carrier gas usually sweeps the entire sample into the column. Uh, so we can either use the splitless mode, where the carrier gas sweeps the entire sample into the column, or the split mode, where the portion of the sample goes into the column. So, we split it into different portions, or just the splitless, everything goes in. Um, Split injection is preferred when mapping the sample with higher analyte concentrations. Yeah, and the splitless usually will be low analyte concentration. About the looking at about 0.5%. So I explained about like the flow ionization, the pressure and filters. So from the very during the beginning, here we have induced pressure from the gas, while in column chromatography, atmospheric pressure is being used. So we have an which maintains based on the settings. The packed columns are usually between 1 to 4 meters long. Think about it like uh, that's pretty long. Uh, and in terms of the diameter, from 6 to 9.5 millimeters. But this is no longer used in analytical. So capillary columns, the wall coated tubular columns. And, usually about 5 meters long, 50 meters, sorry, until 3 um, millimeters in diameter. So remember, we said that to increase the efficiency of our chromatography, an increase in our column length and diameter will promote, or an decrease in our diameter, efficiency. So when you look at like what was used a long time ago and what is used right now, you can clearly tell, the efficiency has increased. So imagine going from meters, go to 50 meters. I don't know if like me, I'm hardly even think of meters. So you can just imagine. Anyway, so our stationary tools normally use capillary columns, and when you say the we expect our capillaries, in themselves to be very good. Anyway, so the stationary tools can usually be stainless steel, glass, few silicone, etc. And the benefits of those capillary columns, the shorter retention time, greater longer life, lower bleed, uh, higher efficiencies, and greater reproducibility. Um, so when we talk about bleeding, as we said, lower bleed is basically what comes from station. So basically, this stationary fuels can be used for, more times than they would have long time. Um, so when preparing pure mixture, or column with bigger internal nutrient. So we spoke about detectors, then basically we just detect, then we have further which will handle the data. So, so this is a picture of, so if you're talking about 50 meters, like as a, as a big thing, like in terms of structure, 50 meters, that's a, that's not even a house, it's a small building or something, maybe even bigger than that. So they usually just and then now they can be up to 50 meters. So that's a long one. Just think about it. So this is a clearer picture you can see moving along. So just take into notes. Let's assume one side is close to the injector, and one side is close to the detector. So basically, it just enters one side, and this in itself is our column, and within it we have a stationary piece and a mobile piece with an analyte just moving through, just moving through, just moving through until it eventually. And then based on the mechanism that we're using to detect analytes, then we can expect different types of detector responses. So don't pay too much mind to this because there are different types. So FID, flame indicator, flame flame recognition is is uh, is the most widely used detector, as I'll explain. Oxygen and air are continuously being pumped, and the presence of the analytes shifts or causes ions to be produced. And once the ions are produced, the scan is detected, then how we know there's an analyte somewhere. Remember, our mobile phase in itself is image. So even if you came into contact with a flame being produced by hydrogen, yeah, nothing will happen. It's a new mass. Remember, it means, like you guys know these things. So, so because of the ions produced by the animals, then we have currents. how it's being produced, and then the current is amplified, and then eventually we have signal. Then this amount of analytes, this amount of elements, and amplified response, this signal probably have, this specific the sample is made. And then second mostly used for the language of processing is the standard. So the key is on the thermal conductivity TCD or catalytic. So this is regarded as the universal detector, and it relies on thermal conductivity of the compounds passing around a heated tungsten leading with current traveling through sensors, changes in the thermal conductivity of the column effluent, and compares it to the different flow mass. So what does this mean? So basically, we have the detector in itself has a current passing through it every time, and it has a reference conductivity. Like even as the mobile gas is passing or mobile base is passing through, our conductivity just remains the same. But immediately that the conductivity changes. I hope everyone is getting this. It's honestly not like just understand that this detector is always receiving a current, and the conductivity is always the same, even when the mobile passes. However, immediately an analyte comes into contact, it changes the conductivity of our detector, and therefore it will then evaluate the conductivity at that time the analyte was present to the reference flow of the analyte. Um, yeah, so TCD measures the resistance to the electric activity of the small series pretty much just the same thing. There's a higher resistance when we have analytes. Therefore, we will know what it is. So normally, I will institute the healing, which is less effective. So the rate for how much it is pulled will be much less when we have a inlet as compared to when it's just a mobile piece. And those thermal changes are what we will eventually detect when we yeah. So another one we have an electron capture detector. And here we mainly use meter electron emitters as a radioactive source. An example is tritium absorbed in titanium, and our carrier advanced usually nitrogen, usually very sensitive to compounds that contain electronegative elements or functional groups, such as halogens, carbons, nitrogens, hydrogens. Mm. Electronegative, like, this like the compound which is waiting for harmony. So, this can be rejected as open and give them an extra electrons. You know, so compounds of the same type of caliber are what we usually use. So next we have our so other types of detectors. We have CSP, clean automatic detector. Also, vacuum TPD, pulse discharge ionization detector, nitrogen phosphorus detector, helium ionization. So, uh, sometimes we can also have different types of detectors present, uh, which allows us to detect a wide range of compounds, you know, confirmatory analysis, of course, if this detector says this to it, and this one also says it's the same thing, you might as well use it, and then just general analytical flexibility. Now we can use so many, we can, we can use so many different types of compounds and analysis. For this now we have, various detectors. So this is mass spec, and then in terms of high mass helium is the most used, about 90%. Then we have as the remember, we love helium because helium is inert, it's an inert gas, and we want our gas molecules to be as inert as we can. And why do we want it to be inert? So that it doesn't, first of all, come into contact with our stationary phase, and also, no issue at the detect. Okay, so the stationary phases commonly usually between 0.1 to 0.52 millimeters in diameter, can either be bonded or unbonded, that means to the column itself. Um, and GC analysis capillary columns, the stationary phase directly coats the wall of the small diameter tube. Stationary phase same, thinner, very profile, thinner, very same, carbohydrates, pigments. So stationary phase can either be bipolar, intermediate, polar, extremely polar. Obviously, extremely polar. So, yeah, we use and make it the same. So, we use poly, 50% and 50%, 50%, which always well, we can use either use this or we use this, which is usually non-bonded, 80% custom component and 20% selection. And for extremely polar, use non-bonded, 2, 3, and 3, 1. Okay. This means like it's almost like the reference material that we use, like around this area you expect to have your your alcohol experience, then it's a bit, different. I'm sure. So when we say GCMS, we just mean the chromatographic method and then we use just, yeah. So chromatography in itself can be used to first of all carry out qualitative analysis, and then it can also be used to carry out a quantitative analysis. However, the quantitative analysis depends on reanalyzation, if our analyzers completely meter, uh, yeah, and this sort of factors. So we can also use it to tell how much of a specific substance was present within an analyte, provided the whole analyte. Mm, yeah, and these are those things which we have to consider just with the context. Like when we want to carry out a quantitative analysis, uh, the rate of rejection, the calibration, how we produce the test, you know, just so when we use digitalization, um, normally poor volatility for poor thermal stability, compounds with poor thermal stability, compounds that are poor with a specific detector, so they will need to be tagged with a different group to improve the detection. Uh, and usually tagging compound chlorine usually improves the response in these and also to improve the resolution. The, the revitalization itself is just as probably like changing the compound a bit before we begin to ensure that it's stable and volatile for successful elution and separation. Elution usually usually react to highly functional groups. Simply, an example. Lastly, we have halogen or reagent, which target active hydrogen anions and acid hydroxide in various reagents and hydroxide. So this is just different application. We can use it for cosmetic potential viewing and analysis. from animals and plants. So remember, the chromatography itself can also be used as separation. So if you separate essential oils and metals from also more than 100 genetic metabolic diseases can be tested by the fast chromatography mass spec, the bacterial test. Also, we can use them to study cancers. We can also use them to detect, toxins present in food, beverages, marijuana, to detect the persistent residues in our food, pest control, and we can also use them to identify bacteria or fatty acid. They're also used in sports, antibiotic analysis, environmental studies, forensics, um, uh, petroleum, and so on. Yeah, so that's what I have today. I sure maybe some questions. So please let me know if you guys have understood, if you didn't understand, maybe I can explain better. I have been a bit far away, so I haven't been able to answer questions this week. But hopefully someone will this is this is really has been I'm pretty sure you have like a million and then there's yes, Daniel, thing on LinkedIn. I think we'll continue Farm, farm, farm. I doing some so I was a big fan of the border. I tried to do it. I generally hope that I have